Purdue is back. Big, quick turnaround here for Purdue, and they are moving into the championship game of the Baha Mar kind of four-team. I don't know what the exact event is called. The Baha Mar Championship, I think, is what it is. But four-team event. Just saw Purdue play Memphis earlier tonight, and now they're moving into a heavyweight clash. Clash the two preseason National Player of the Year favorites. Clash two preseason top 15 teams. In Purdue's case, the top one team preseason. This is kind of the exciting matchup that we've all been building up to. Been a lot of, uh, you know, we'll probably play Texas Tech, but we do both have to still win. We can finally say it for real. We are playing Texas Tech. I'm excited for this one. I'm sure you're excited for this one. I think a lot of the country's excited for this one. What are your thoughts on this Texas Tech team?
Preseason, I had them ranked higher than you did. I was kind of the high man on our podcast here with Texas Tech. I like this Texas Tech team. They're not deep, but they're very talented at the top. JT Toppin, you mentioned Braden Smith's primary competition for National Player of the Year coming into the year. Absolutely phenomenal performance. 21 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists against Wake Forest. On the season, by the way, he's averaging 24, 11, and 3 with 2 steals and a block. I mean, he is just stuffing the stat sheet in every way imaginable. And Christian Anderson, his running mate in the backcourt, he came off the bench for an Elite Eight Texas Tech team last year and gained a lot of notoriety over the summer with Team Germany in the U19 events. He has been phenomenal as well. I mean, both of these guys carry their team. Anderson's averaging 19, 4, and 9 with 3 steals as well. I mean, these two guys are the best 1-2 tandem in the country outside of Braden Smith and Trey Kaufman-Renn, and it's very much analogous to Purdue last year, which is kind of what you were saying in the preseason about the Texas Tech team was JT Toppin and Christian Anderson are two of the maybe 10 best players in the country, even coming into the year, which is kind of what Braden Smith and Trey Kaufman-Renn were last year. And Purdue obviously lacked in some other areas, and we're a top 15 team instead of a top 10 team as a result. That might be where the Texas Tech team is headed, but they're very close. They almost beat a very good Illinois team, and they did end up pulling out a 1 point win over a very feisty Wake Forest team that also had a double overtime 1 point loss to Michigan. So, give me your thoughts on Texas Tech and how you see them matching up with Purdue specifically.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one. This is a team or a game that I think will feature some really high level offensive stuff. Whether it's individual plays from very talented offensive players and some very fun actions. I think there's you're hard pressed to find a better staff in the country than Purdue and Matt Painter and PJ Thompson with what they run offensively. But Texas Tech is right there. I think Mark Adams does a great job with especially with that offense. They run a lot of unique stuff. It's going to be a fun game. I think this game looks a lot less sloppy than the two games, especially the first game tonight that Purdue played. I think that you're going to get some pretty high level offense out of this game, and yeah, I mean you mentioned it. Like you're going to have two of the top 10 to 15 players in the country on each side. Like you got four of those guys in this game. Sign me up any day of the week. This Texas Tech team is not deep. They play 6 to 7 guys, but I mean, Christian Anderson played 39 minutes tonight. That's going to be the case a lot of nights. He's going to have the ball in his hands the entire game. Very much similar to what Braden Smith did for Purdue last year. JT Toppin, going to lead the team in shot attempts, going to be their leading scorer. A lot of it's going to come off of actions with Christian Anderson. Now, granted, he's a little bit better of an ISO scorer, I think, than Trey Kaufman-Renn. I think he's a little different in that aspect. He's a little bit more throw it on the block, and no one can check him, which no one has been able to so far. But yeah, this is a really fun matchup. I think between two teams that want to do some similar things.
Yeah, you mentioned the actions Texas Tech is going to run. Purdue fans are going to recognize a lot of them as two main games that Braden Smith and Trey Kaufman-Renn have run in the past. Um, these two players are phenomenal. I mean, JT Toppin is Trey Kaufman Wren if he could defend. I mean, that's kind of who he is. And I would have said before the season Trey Kaufman if he could rebound, but Trey's done 3 double doubles to start the season, so can't really say that anymore. But Toppin's fantastic. Anderson is an absolute just bullet from three. I mean, he can knock down anything from anywhere. And as a facilitator, he's taken a huge step forward this year at 8 assists against Wake Forest. He's really stepped forward to take over this offense and is leading Texas Tech in a whole bunch of different categories. And Tech is also a pretty good shooting team. We talked about how they're not a deep team. But Petty, he's not shooting great on the season, but in theory, he's a very good shooter. Jalen Petty comes off the bench at 3 threes in this Wake Forest game, including a couple ones late that really helped them. Lawan Watts is shooting 50% from three on the season, despite going 0 for 4 against Wake Forest. He's been fantastic for the most part as a floor spacer and sort of secondary ISO scorer next to JT Toppin. Tyree Bryant can shoot. Donovan Atwell can shoot. I think this is going to be a test of Purdue's defense a little bit. They got exposed against Memphis because they couldn't contain the dribble. Texas Tech doesn't have a lot of guards other than Anderson who can win one-on-one on the perimeter. But they do have two things Purdue still struggles to defend, and that's bigs and Toppin and Watts who can get their own shot, and it's guys who can knock down shots off the ball. Purdue's going to be tested in trying to defend 3-point shooters who are going to be spacing the floor because they're going to have to collapse their defense. Like Trey Kaufman is not checking JT Toppin one-on-one, right? Oscar Clough is not checking Lawan Watts one-on-one, right?
I think
So
Clough is sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I think Clough is going to be the one who ends up getting the top in assignment. If I had to guess, I think that probably goes the best for Purdue. But point still stands.
regardless
Either
of
one's
who
going to be able
was
to
on
get them one
who,
on
neither
one.
of them are checking either of them. They're going to be able to get into the paint and they're going to kick out the shooters who can knock down open shots. It's going to be a test. And then Anderson, of course, like CJ Cox, Jakari Harris, whoever's on the floor, they're going to be tasked with just making sure Anderson is not single-handedly winning the game.
Yeah, I agree. This is another one of those games where you saw what Purdue's defense is able to do to Phylon, and if that's real, here's another chance to replicate it. Like you saw what those guys are able to do to Phylon, but this team has also had some problems with some of the bigger guards that are able to score and get downhill and pass. And Christian Anderson is as good as anyone in the country at a lot of things on the basketball court. So this is another really really tough defensive assignment for this Purdue backcourt. I do think that Anderson's size, he's not the biggest guy. I think that kind of plays a little bit into Purdue's hands in that sense. Like I think part of what made guys like Phylon such a scary thought was the size and the ability to get downhill. Christian Anderson is good at getting downhill, but he's not a LeBaron Phylon. He's not really like a John Tonji type from last year who was able to kill Purdue. I believe he's listed at 5'11". He's a smaller guy. He's still really, really good, but I do think that aspect plays a little bit into CJ and Jakari's hands in the sense that they'll be the bigger guy in that matchup as opposed to usually they're the smaller one.
Yeah, Anderson's not big, and that does benefit Purdue. But to your point about Phylon does not have a running mate like Toppin.
No, he doesn't.
Not even close. And that's going to be a bit of a problem for a Purdue team that doesn't have a ton of individual plus defenders. So it's going to be a lot of team defense against these guys. Expect a lot of switching and help defense and rotations to have to be in place. And if they're able to stay disciplined, like I said, this Texas Tech team is not deep. Like if you're able to shut the water off on Anderson and Toppin, you're going to be forcing guys who are not plus scorers to have to carry a scoring load. but shutting on the water off to Anderson and Toppin is something no one is ever able to do, let alone a Purdue team that's a little lackluster in defense relative to the other teams around their caliber. So it's going to be a huge Herculean task just to stop those two guys, let alone if Watts gets going or some of these other guys. But to what Texas Tech does specifically, on their team sheet here, they are an elite rebounding team. They are a fantastic shooting team for multiple levels. About the only thing they don't do well, they do not get to the foul line a lot. And I wanted to bring that up specifically because Purdue was currently 11th in the country in avoiding fouls on the defensive end. And that was after a very sloppy game against Memphis, which I think any Purdue fan watching would argue was not officiated fairly. If Purdue can avoid sending Texas Tech to the line, that is a sizable advantage in this game that a lot of teams won't have.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think this could be a big Jacobson game. For Toppin, he is a great player. I love Toppin. He's probably the second best player in the country. He is only 6'9". He's a 6'9" center. I think there's potential that Jacobson's length could bother him. And now there were a few times tonight where I thought Jacobson just got overpowered, and that probably happens with Toppin. But I do think that the 7'4" long arms of Jacobson could do some really good things for this Purdue team in slowing down Watts and Toppin, even if just for stretches. And I also wouldn't be shocked to see this Purdue team employ the kind of style of defense that a lot of teams employed against them in the Zach Edey era, where it was let Toppin have 30, let him go one on one. Because what makes Texas Tech dangerous is when Toppin gets going, and then Watts gets going, and they're at the rim, and then Anderson gets going, and then you know they're getting to the rim any way they want, and then now all of a sudden they're spraying to shooters, and now the role players don't have to be anything special, just have to knock down open shots, and when they're knocking down open shots like that, they're really really tough to beat. I think you could see Purdue turn this into a make Toppin and Anderson combine for 65. And if those two get to 60 by themselves, Texas Tech will probably win anyway. And they're good enough that they might do it. But I think that's how I would go about guarding this Texas Tech team is just let Toppin have one-on-ones. Let him go one-on-one on the block. If Toppin scores 35 and Tech wins by 4, you tip your cap to JT Toppin and say, well, great player on a great team with a great coach beat us tonight. That happens. But I think on the other end, Purdue is deep enough that they have more options, and if they're able to wear this Texas Tech team down, especially by running good actions offensively, making Toppin guard the whole shot clock, make Christian Anderson guard the whole shot clock, that would be huge for this team because Texas Tech does not have anyone behind them to come give them a spell.
Yeah, I agree. I think Purdue's going to defend them one on one, and I actually think that's why this is going to be a bigger Oscar Club game than Daniel Jacobson. Um, you mentioned Toppin's strength. I Jacobson is just going to get eaten alive by Toppin if they're one on one. As a secondary defender, I think Jacobson could swat some shots, but we saw against Memphis, he only played 5 minutes because he picked up 4 fouls and a bunch of stupid plays. Like Jacobson was not playing straight up. Guys are getting into his chest. He was bringing his arms down. He was doing everything he could to block shots. He was picking up dumb fouls on shots that didn't have a chance to. I mean, there's one play, I specifically remember, where Jacobson picked up his 4th foul when a guard drove into his chest and was trying this like back off balance, trying to get over him as he was falling away about 8 feet from the basket. And Jacobson tries to swat the shot and whacks the guy in the arm. And if he just stays straight up, there is zero chance that shot's going in. It's more likely to hit hit the side of the backboard than it is to go into the bucket. But Jacobson can't help himself. And that's just what Jacobson is as an individual defender right now. He knows he's a good shot blocker. He's trying to swat everything. He's making dumb plays. He's a freshman, right? That's okay. He's playing in what, his 7th game? But against JT Toppin, that's not going to fly. I mean, Toppin's going to get every and one he wants against Jacobson. I almost think just having, I mean, Clough is not the shot blocker that Jacobson is. He's been a better shot blocker than honestly I expected coming in the season, but he's not really a rim protector in the same way Jacobson is. But he's a much stronger body. He'll be able to hold up to Toppin a little bit better. He'll be able to push him a little bit further off the block, make the shots a little bit tougher, and that's how you defend Toppin, right? You're not going to block any of his shots, but if you can make the ones he is attempting just that much harder. In the same way teams try and defend Trakeoff and Ren, right? Push him a little bit further out. His push shots are a little bit further than he's used to. They're not going to go in with the same frequency. And if you can make him just a tad bit more inefficient, that gives you an advantage because he's still going to be the one taking those shots.
Talking through it, I agree with you. Like I think you're right in that this is definitely a bigger Clough game. Another thing I didn't really think about before this, but Clough's physicality on the glass is going to be big. I think it's going to force Toppin and Watts and Bamboye in the few minutes that he plays to really be physical in battle. Like it's going to suck for Toppin to have to. Toppin is likely going to have to play 35 plus minutes in this game for Tech to have a chance to win. And battling with Oscar Clough for 35 minutes on the glass sounds miserable. Like, especially for a guy in Toppin who's not the biggest. He's 6'9", 230. He's very athletic, very strong, but he's not the biggest guy. He's not going to be able to just throw his weight around and move people the way that Clough can a little bit. Clough is able to throw his big, wide shoulders around and kind of move people. And he's super physical, goes after the ball hard. And I think wearing down, I think just kind of talking through this preview, the most glaring thing about this Texas Tech team is they're so thin. They have no depth. Darion Williams, I'm glad Darion Williams left because I'd be terrified of this Texas Tech team with him. But without him, they're very thin. They're just kind of missing another guy. Like they need another player that gives them productive minutes. And you saw in Wake Forest, they're like a couple of these guys they're kind of turning to look for like a spark, get in for like a minute and are unplayable. I mean, it is a little bit Purdue-esque of last year where like you're looking for an answer, you're looking for anything you can get from the ninth guy on the bench. And it's just unproductive. It's just nothing. It's a complete negative. And so Purdue's ability to wear this Texas Tech team down, beat them up on the glass, beat them up inside, make them guard for the entire shot clock will be huge in winning this game because when it comes down to it, I think, down the last 5 minute stretch, there's a really good shot that Christian Anderson and JT Toppin are running out of gas while Braden Smith and Trey Kaufman are still full go because of things like Omer Meyer and things like Jack Benner, who can give these guys a quick 2 minute spell to catch their breath.
It's a good segue into our predictions portion of this preview. We have the KenPom lineup. It's a 79-76 projected victory for Purdue, so a 3-point spread. I don't know 100% if the betting lines are up yet. I would guess they're not. I'll double check here while you're giving preview or your prediction here. But who are you taking on a 3-point spread in the ballroom at the top of a hotel in Nassau, the Bahamas? Purdue or Texas Tech?
Yeah, this is such a tough one because I almost don't even feel like I have a read on this game. I think I lean Texas Tech, and that this may be the first time I've ever picked against Purdue on this podcast, whether football or basketball, which is crazy. Shout out the football team. I don't know how that happened, but I am a little concerned about this Purdue team, not long run, but just defensively, how they're going to hold up against this Texas Tech team. I think JT Dobbin and Christian Anderson are going to kind of get whatever they want, and that terrifies me. And I think this is a game that we could see those two go nuclear. It would not shock me to see Texas Tech come out close and, just kind of look up and be like, that was a Herculean performance from JT Toppin and Christian Anderson. And I think Lawan Watts has a lot of success in this game. And my kind of early read on Texas Tech is if all three of those guys have a really good game, they're almost impossible to beat.
I think that's a great take. I'm also very torn in this game. I truly think this is the first game that we're talking about in this Purdue Festival season that feels like a coin flip. You and I were both pretty confident Purdue would beat Alabama, and obviously we're pretty heavily favored against other four opponents we've played so far. But Texas Tech is a different caliber of opponent than anyone we've played besides Bama, and they match up much better with Purdue than Bama did. And both teams are coming off really ugly games in their first matchup in this tournament. This game truly feels the 3 points to Purdue. If I was a betting man, I would take Texas Tech here just on the points. This feels like a 1 or 2 point buzzer beater type of game, or at least one that's very, very close and is separated a little bit by free throws, one way or the other at the end. But I don't love it. I'm gonna take Purdue. I think I trust Purdue's shooting more than I trust Texas Tech's shooting. And I think that matters a lot in a game where scoring wise, JT Toppin versus Trey Kaufman Wren versus Christian Anderson versus Braden Smith feels pretty even. I think Fletcher Lawyer is a better third option than Lawan Watts, but Lawan Watts is a much more physical presence across the basketball court. So that could kind of neutralize that. I just think they seem very, very even. I don't think Texas Tech has an Oscar Clough, though. And I think Clough is going to be a major factor in this game. I think I trust Purdue to make plays down the stretch that I don't trust the Red Raiders to make. Give me the Boilers by 1 or 2 points. Like I said, I think Texas Tech covers. This is going to be an incredibly close game. Whichever team wins it is going to be lauded. This is one of the premier wins on anyone's resume as we get towards the tournament.
Yeah, this is another chance for Purdue to put another feather in the cap, another kind of stone on the belt, so to speak, in preparing a resume for March in which not only are they looking to get a one seed, but a team with aspirations like Purdue is looking at that St. Louis, Chicago, Illinois potential run that the number one overall seed in the Midwest region is going to have.
Yeah.
Beating Texas Tech, cementing that win next to an Alabama win in the non-conference would do so much for this team in cementing a resume, because if they're able to go, even undefeated through this non-conference, if they're able to do that and they get to selection day and they're able to point and say, "Hey, we beat Alabama at their place. We beat Texas Tech on a neutral floor. We beat Iowa State. We beat Auburn. We beat all these schools." All these schools that I think will have a ton of success. Like, I think Alabama's looks like the best team in the SEC pretty clearly to me right now. I think Texas Tech, while not being the best team in the Big 12, just because that league is also loaded, looks like one of the better teams in an insanely tough top part of that conference.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think a win over Texas Tech would age so wonderfully, especially if they are able to beat a Houston or beat an Arizona, someone like that. This is a really big chance for Purdue. I hate that I'm doing it, but I think I have to go with Texas Tech. I just like how Texas Tech matches up with this Purdue team too much, and it worries me. You talked about it, like this feels like a coin flip game, and I think Texas Tech really matches up well with Purdue.
Texas Tech has the size, and we talked about this in the Memphis review. Was really bothered by Memphis' size. Has that. They have the athleticism. They have the off-ball shooting. They have the interior scoring. They're an even better rebounding team than I think Purdue has played yet this year. So, yeah, it would not surprise me. I'll take the Boilers. So you're taking the Red Raiders, which really goes to this game is teetering on a racer's edge. Can really go either way. Either way, should be a fun Friday night for everyone in Boiler Nation. If you're in the Bahamas, salute to you. Looks like a fun place to hang out for the weekend. And for the rest of us, we'll have to watch from afar, enjoy some tropical drinks, and we'll be here to recap it at some point over the weekend. So with that, enjoy the game.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone.